We all need friends in ministry.
Yeah.
The guys coming in here are walking not into an academic institution, but they're walking into a brotherhood.
Welcome to the Grimké podcast. Good to have you all back. This morning I have with me good friend, Grimké student, Pastor Justin Honaker. How you doing?
Doing great. It's great to be here with you, Joe.
You see, I'm disappointed already because what I expected you to say is, and if you wonder how I'm doing, I think I'm doing fine, but I'd rather be in Virginia on the Russell County line.
Listen, 49 Winchester's probably... They grew up 15 minutes from my house.
Yes. So pastor on the Russell County line in Lebanon, Virginia. Did I pronounce that right? Not Lebanon.
Yes, Lebanon.
Lebanon.
It's two syllables.
Two syllables, yeah.
Yeah, it's it's a great place to live. Grew up in Russell County. Lived in actually Honaker.
Your namesake?
My namesake, named after my people. And then I've lived in Lebanon the last 12 years.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we'd start out and I would mention a few professions that people have.
Yeah.
So, coal miner, pharmacist, pastor, CrossFit gym owner, coffee shop owner. And then I'll say, you've been all of these things. And you can tell your story by reconciling all those things together, because that already sounds fascinating.
Yeah. I've taken many winding turns in my life. So, grew up the son of a coal miner and a school teacher.
Yeah.
And my dad said, do whatever you want, but don't be a coal miner.
Okay.
Right? He had worked. He ended up working nearly 40 years in the coal mines, putting food on the table, all that stuff. And so I went off to college and had every intention of going into the medical field. Mm-hmm. And that ended up narrowing down to either medical school or pharmacy.
Yep.
And ended up going with pharmacy.
Fantastic.
And went, but in the midst of all that, my wife and I, we got married during undergraduate, and we were young and poor, very poor.
Yeah.
And trying to take a lot of classes, trying to finish school on time, all that good stuff. And so my dad actually pulled some strings and got me a job as a coal miner.
All right.
With the caveat that I wouldn't stay in it.
There you go. Temporary.
But it's a temporary thing. But I ended up working for about 4 years. I would work all weekends, holidays, summers, winter break, all those things. I worked as a coal miner while finishing my undergraduate and the beginning of pharmacy school.
Okay. Is it everything that people think, like dark soot?
Yeah, it's always so coal mining, and we won't go into all of it, but it's a big misconception oftentimes.
Yeah.
For certain mines. The mine that I worked in was a very large mine.
Okay.
Oftentimes the roof, the top, they would call it, was 7, 8, 9 feet tall. In some places 30, 40, 50 feet tall.
Wow.
So not a ton of crawling around.
Yeah.
But it was dark. It's a darkness like you've never seen.
Yeah.
And it was something else. It was really neat to see kind of what my dad had done to provide for my family. And so I came out of coal mining, finished pharmacy school, and in that was doing some youth ministry, some different things at the church. And so it was just kind of had the thought that I was going to be a pharmacist my whole life.
That was the church where your wife's dad was pastor?
Yeah. My father-in-law was the lead pastor there. And so I was doing youth ministry, serving on the worship team, doing things like that, just thinking, I'm going to go make a great living as a pharmacist, serve the church.
Yep.
Just be a faithful church member and just be involved in that way. And then my interest in ministry began to grow.
Okay.
But still thinking that vocational ministry was never something I would do.
Yeah.
But then in 2015, He had been healthy his whole life, was diagnosed with cancer in October 2015.
Wow.
He went to be with the Lord in March of 2016, so a really quick diagnosis to death. And a couple months later, actually June of 2016, I was installed as the lead pastor of the church.
That was not your plan?
No, it was not my plan. My wife always jokes that she grew up saying, I never want to marry a pastor.
Okay.
And I always retort by saying, you didn't.
Yeah.
You married a broke college student going to pharmacy school. I had no intention of being a pastor, no intention of doing vocational ministry. But the Lord has good plans. And there's been obviously seasons of difficulty in that, but a lot of beauty as well too. So,
Sure.
Yeah. And so along with that, Lebanon's a small town, and needs some businesses, and the Lord's given me an entrepreneurial mind, and so even before I had taken the lead pastor role, we decided to start a coffee shop in the town. So we opened that in 2016, early 2016, right before my father-in-law passed away, and right before I took the lead pastor job.
Okay,
and then a year later, we opened a CrossFit gym. And so we still own the CrossFit gym. We sold the coffee shop to some folks in the church that are doing well with it. And so it's been a very journey to sit on this couch today. I've done a lot of things and enjoyed a lot of things.
So how did those different professions, entrepreneurial endeavors, being poor and broke, how have those prepared you for ministry?
That's such a great question. I think one of the things, it reminds me of what Paul says in Philippians 4, where he says, I've had plenty and I've been in lack, but I've learned that I can do all things through Christ. And really that sound, we put that on sports t-shirts. Yeah. But really it's a testimony to, in all those things, I've found the Lord to be enough, and in that, learning to see things with an entrepreneurial mind, or to deal with problems out in the world, I think it's made me a better pastor in that I know how to handle situations in a better way. I know what it's like when the church is tight on money, because I've been tight on money in my own life. And then also learned how to, when you do have a little bit of money, how to use that appropriately and not waste it, and how to love on people that are coming from all different backgrounds, all different, lifestyles, things like that need the gospel, that need someone to be there with them, that will be a solid place for them to land. And so it's been a wide array of things, but really I think it's prepared me in many ways to be a better pastor.
And probably, since all of that work was in Russell County, like if you can't talk to you without knowing that you love your county, you love your place. Yeah. You love the people there. So whether you're starting businesses or preaching the gospel, I know I love this people. I love this place. I want my community to thrive.
Yeah, I have a heart for the county. I always, funny enough, I always thought I'll go off to college. I'll find a wife off at college. Mm-hmm. I won't move back. That was my thought growing up. Yeah. And all the opposite things have happened, and I couldn't be more thankful. Yeah. I wake up looking at the Clinch Mountain Range. Yeah. I see the rivers and the beautiful topography there in the county, and I'm thankful to God when I wake up in Russell County. Yeah. It's not bad waking up in Richmond, but I love it when I make it back to that Russell County line. I bet you do. Yeah. And to meet the people and know people and see the walk that many people are going through in our town, in our county, and knowing them at a more personal level is just, it's one of the joys of being in the county and being known and knowing other people.
Sure. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. No, so I imagine also your call into ministry and its uniqueness probably had a certain level of terror to it. Not just, of course, grief at the passing of your wife's dad, but also, hey, guess what? You're the pastor. So what was that like?
Wow. It was filled with a lot of hope and a lot of grief all at the same time. So kind of backtracking a bit, I did, before he got sick, I had really kind of been affirmed in a call to ministry, had really existentially felt like this was where I was headed at this point. But thinking, this is 10, 15 years down the road. This is when student loans are gone and financial security for the family is taken care of and all those things. And then I'll start, doing some more things like that. And then when he got sick and everything sped up so quickly, and after his passing, stepping into that, I wasn't able to immediately quit working as a pharmacist. So I was fully bivocational for a while with a large church for our area. Yeah. And so a lot of pressure. But at the same time, the Lord was faithful in that season to kind of meet me where I was. But I knew that in doing all these other things, I was a studier of things. I like to be educated. I like to learn. I like to know what's going on and why things are going the way and where we're headed. And it was about 2 or 3 years, actually a year or so in, I thought, I've got to learn. Yeah. And I started looking around at the landscape, knowing that I had, honestly, like $250,000 already in student loans from graduate school. And looking at seminaries going, I can't pay $80,000 more. Yeah. I can't pay $60,000 more. And through a friend, I got a screen capture of Grimké's original post that said, we're doing a seminary. And this guy said, hey, you should check this out. Nice. I think it's going to be right up your alley. Yeah. And so then I started looking in, thinking about it, and that's when my Grimké journey began. Yeah. Yeah.
So how did your experience at Grimké at seminary, being able to study and train for ministry, affect you even as you were in ministry? How did it chart your path?
Oh man, it's been such a watershed moment for me in ministry. I think I had a good grasp on what the gospel was and the fact that people needed it. Yeah. But the larger thought about how we are to be theologically driven in every aspect of all that we do, it became apparent to me fairly quickly that I didn't understand that. Mm-hmm. And that I was piecemealing a church together based on the history of the church, based on some needs in the congregation, based on the fact that I had taken a foray into expositional preaching, but the history of the church was far more topical. Sure. And so it was all these things, kind of a very much a hodgepodge, or just a putting together of things that I didn't see the comprehensive picture of it. And in coming to Grimké, one of the things that just immediately kind of hit me in the face was there's a better way to see this. Nice. There's a better way to think holistically about the gospel and its implication on our lives, on our marriages, our families, our relationships, our professions, all these things. And then specifically, how does that translate into how we're actually working for the sake of the gospel in the church? And so I began to, I think, instead of taking very small snapshots at particular parts of the landscape, I was able to, at Grimké, begin to have a wider view lens of the landscape of what pastoral ministry is and how it's to be done in a way that holistically honors God.
Yeah. So if there was somebody sitting in your congregation, you take over as pastor, you decide to go get seminary education, what kind of change would they have noticed in you over the course of your studies and preparation?
I think the biggest thing that I have heard people tell me, and they have, and I didn't really, honestly wasn't very vocal about the fact that I was going to seminary, because I was already out of town so much with pharmacy. I was still working 2 jobs at that time. And so I didn't want to tell the people, hey, I'm going to be gone even more. Mm-hmm. And so the main thing that began to be said to me was, oh, I see your boldness growing. Huh. That's interesting. I think there was a boldness that came to me from Grimké, and specifically the mentorship of the professors and the things I was learning in classes, that not only gave me a boldness specifically for the gospel, but also gave me a boldness around we're walking this out rightly. The very, specifically to the preaching, but also the wider landscape of discipling and calling men and women to walk in what it means to honor God with their lives. And so all those things really began to flourish in me. And I had a greater sense of the Lord's purpose specifically for me as a pastor, and I had a more specific grasp on the implications of the gospel and was able to proclaim those things with a greater boldness. I also think clarity.
Okay.
Clarity. My clarity increased, especially through some of the preaching classes and through being confident that the Word of God is saying what I think it's saying, and learning like
it actually does say
yes,
that.
It does say this, and you can proclaim it clearly and boldly. And so that was such a great pivotal moment in. And it's hard to test. We don't test ministry necessarily by fruit. That's always a little odd to do. But I have seen that the Lord has been faithful over these last 4 or 5 years that I've been at and around Grimké, that we've baptized more people in the last 3 years than we baptized the previous 5 years before. And I know that's not a testimony of me, but that's the Lord does use means to bring about His kingdom work in towns and cities and churches, things like that. And in helping us to have a greater clarity as a whole church around what it means to be Christians and to live that out in every day of our lives, in our families, in discipling our kids, all those things. We've seen God do some amazing things in and through the church.
Even to the point of the idea of a Christian school?
Yes. Yeah, that's one job title that you didn't mention. I'm also the head of school for Clinch Mountain Christian School.
All right.
Plug our school there at the church. We started that. We're in our second year right now. We started out last fall. We started with 28 students.
Wow. And
we were praying for 15.
All right.
The Lord sent 28 at the beginning of the year. We finished with 40.
Wow.
Last year. And then we started this second year with 75. So we've got 75 students. I think we have 11 faculty.
Nice.
And it's been such a blessing to our church, to our community.
Sure.
Because it's a great need to disciple our kids and to have an education that bolsters that family discipleship.
Yeah.
And so we've got great people. The Lord sent just the exact right people.
That's awesome.
And so I'm the head of the school.
Head of the school?
Yeah.
Your business card is getting,
it's
not a lot of space left on that.
It's a business 8x11 at this point. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, but it's, finding the right people to pass things off to at the right time is something I'm working on.
Yeah.
It's good though. It's been a blessing to see God move in that way and bring families and see these kids growing, not only in their educational life, but also being able to be in an atmosphere that's theologically rich and clear, but also spiritually nourishing and protective and guiding for the students. So it's been great.
Yeah. One of the fun things for me is you predate me in my time here at the seminary.
Yeah.
You probably also know I love college basketball.
Yeah.
When you talk about college basketball, you always talk about the players who make the most blocks or make the most points, but there's always a player on the team that we call the glue guy.
Yeah.
And the glue guy is the guy that when he's on the floor, the team functions better. When he's off the floor, they don't. He kind of holds them together. I don't know if you'd say this about yourself, but I've seen the way that you encourage fellowship, brotherhood amongst your fellow students here at Grimké. I don't know if there's a student that knows more of his fellow students and really tries to invest in the lives of students, pastors coming and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so how did that come about?
Oh, goodness. Well, I think I'm an extrovert by nature.
No.
Yes, it is the case. It is the case. But I think even with particularly the school, I came up here not knowing anyone.
Okay.
I knew so little about the school that I thought we were meeting at the downtown location. And so I got a hotel in downtown Richmond, only to realize the morning of the first day of the first intensive that I was going to the wrong place. And so I walked in not knowing anyone.
Yeah.
Not knowing anything about Grimké, not knowing any of the pastors here at the seminary. And they welcomed me in such a way that it made me feel like family.
Yeah.
And I want that for other guys.
Yeah.
I want guys coming from all different places, all different seasons of ministry, whether a guy's been pastoring for 20 years and thinks I need to freshen up, I need to sharpen.
Yeah.
Or a guy's thinking, I think this is what the Lord is calling me into and I want to go in with eyes wide open. Whether guys are young or older, they're married, kids, all those things, we're all in different seasons of life. But at the same time, we all need friends.
Yeah.
And we all need friends in ministry.
Yeah.
We don't want to be a part of the epidemic of loneliness in pastoral ministry. And part of the way that I try to help with that, I don't know that I'd say I'm the glue guy, but I would say
the glue guy.
I love the thought that I might be part of the glue.
Yeah.
Right. That the guys coming in here are walking not into an academic institution, but they're walking into a brotherhood.
Yeah.
They're walking into a place where, the old Cheers song where everybody knows their name.
Yeah.
It is so encouraging when you go into a place and you may not really have your bearings about everything that's going on there, but somebody knows you.
Yeah.
And they care for you and they want to know how your brother is from last intensive, or they want to know how's your wife, or they want to see how the church is doing. And then don't just stop at it's fine, everything's good, but really press in. And so guys did that for me.
Yeah.
And I want to do that for other guys so that we can last and be in healthy places.
Yeah. I'm glad we got to talk about that, because guys who are considering seminary, what drives them to seminary typically, and what drove you to seminary, it sounds like, is I need education. I do need knowledge.
Yeah.
I need skills that I'm going to need to pastor people well. But the thing that guys don't know that they need and hopefully get as they engage with seminary is I need brotherhood, I need friends.
Yeah.
Ministry is very lonely.
Yeah, in a lot of ways I showed up like Paul writes, I went up to make sure I'd not run in vain.
Yeah.
But much like Paul, I found a lot of fellow soldiers, friends, co-laborers in the ministry. And I was telling some guys at our church the other day, I was at a point early in ministry that when something went wrong, I didn't know who to call.
Yeah.
And now I'm at a point in ministry, largely in part because of Grimké, that when something goes wrong, the question is not who can I call, but rather the question is which one of my great friends would be best to help me out
of all
this?
The options.
Yeah, out of all the options.
Right.
I have a plethora of guys to call, and I'm saying, well, maybe this guy would be better, or this guy would be better to give me some wisdom. And it's such a better place in ministry.
It's awesome.
It's such a healthier place where I know that I have all kinds of guys that I can call and say, hey, I'm having a rough time. I need help. I need wisdom.
Yeah.
I need you to pray for me. It's just such a better way to walk out what God has for us in pastoral ministry.
And you brought some guys with you this time so that they can experience the same thing.
Yeah, they're here, and I'm just like, I'm like a parent like taking their kid to like the fair for the first time. Like, which ride do you want to do? What's most fun for you? Which one did you enjoy the most?
Right.
Like leaving last night, I was like, so tell me about your day. Tell me what you enjoyed the most. Yeah. But it's been such a good couple days already of just seeing them interacting with other guys, getting to build some of those, it's the germination. It's the beginning of this walk for them in growing in friendship, growing in ministry together with other guys. Yeah. So it's been a blessing.
That leads into another thing I'm going to put on your business card.
Yeah.
Which is you're leading kind of the organization and implementation of the fraternity here at Grimké. And so some people might hear fraternity, never heard of a seminary having a fraternity. And so talk a little bit about why that's important, what you're excited about that.
Yeah, so we have a no hazing policy.
Excellent.
Yeah, not officially, but it's coming.
Exactly.
But no, the Grimké fraternity, it exists to provide care for the souls of Grimké men.
Yeah.
And so the big idea around Grimké fraternity is that if you're around here for any length of time, you'll hear somebody say, Grimké men are gospel men.
Yeah.
But with the fraternity, I want to just add a little addendum to that sentence and say, Grimké men are gospel men that stay gospel men.
Yeah.
And so we all know the countless stories of brothers who have walked away from the ministry earlier than they needed to, earlier than we would have liked to have seen them, maybe is a better way to say it.
Yep.
And what we want to do with the fraternity is provide a level of soul care and brotherhood that keeps us in the fight.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to work on something when you're there by yourself.
Yeah.
But one can put 100 to flight.
Yeah.
Two can put 10,000 to flight, kind of thing. And maybe I'm a little hyperbolic there, but it is just the case that when we link arms together in brotherhood around pastoral ministry, we are quicker to repent.
Sure.
We're quicker to dive back into the deep work of caring for our congregations, walking out evangelism, walking out what it means to be a pastor. And so Grimké Fraternity is here to say, you're not alone.
Yeah.
We're here with you. We want to keep men who graduate from here connected here, whether that's through our annual pastor conference or retreats that individual chapters of the fraternity will be taking part in. But we really want to see men stay connected so that they stay in the fight, so they know, just like I was talking a minute ago, so they know they have a guy to call or guys to call when stuff hits the fan.
Yeah.
Like we want men to have calloused hands and tender hearts for the work of the Lord.
Yeah.
And we feel like Grimké Fraternity is a way to see that mission go forth, such that we're recounting God's faithfulness generation after generation through graduates of Grimké Seminary.
I love the idea as a professor on faculty. One of the challenges that we have is we do see, of course, men excelling academically and being equipped for the work of the ministry. But over the course of that, they're earning a degree.
Yeah.
And I know some guys intentionally will slow roll a degree on purpose. They can finish it faster, like your STM.
Yeah.
But they will elongate their degree earning, not because they don't have the capacity or the time to finish it faster, but they want to be exposed to the fellowship, collegiality, the atmosphere. And so as a seminary, it's difficult because if we want to keep guys connected, one solution is just keep creating more degrees. And that's a bad solution.
It's never have a terminus.
Right, exactly. And I know guys who've been in ministry for a while who pursue an advanced degree, not certainly to learn something, but they want to be connected to other men. And so I think the concept of the fraternity is, you may or may not need another degree. It may be helpful for you, it may not. But you can maintain fellowship and brotherhood with like-minded pastors in similar ministry without constantly having to find what's the next degree, what's the next degree. So I love the idea. I'm excited that you're leading it.
Yeah.
What are some hopes you have for it in the coming years?
Yeah, it's just taking off here in the next few weeks where we're actually formalizing chapters and getting guys with chapter directors. We have a great group of inaugural chapter directors.
Fantastic.
men that I love and am so thankful for being part of it. And my hope is that we would honestly just do exactly what our stated mission is, that we would create brotherhood and soul care, such that men are not only built up in the Lord in their own ministry, but they're also seeking to bring other men into this family.
Yeah.
You know, as we're pastoring, we're going to be raising up leaders, and we want the experience and the brotherhood to be so strong that, like the Samaritan woman, we want to say, come and see what this is about.
Yeah.
You know, and so we want Grimké, the fraternity, to be a place where the joy of being here at the intensives continues to permeate our lives through these relationships.
Fantastic.
As we, seek to pastor for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
May the Lord make it so.
Amen.
So thanks so much for your time. I think our viewers benefited. I've been encouraged. Always love talking to you. I also know you're a busy man, so let you do all the other things that you do during intensive. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Yep.